When you're a guy in our position, you're not understood. No one understands you. No one gets you. No one cares to really know you, and any type of relationships you have with people, it has to be transactional. Like you have to provide some sort of service to them, whether it's emotional service, whether it's some type of service where, you do something in specific for them and, there's like a return on it, because men who are lonely and isolated and desolated, they're just not liked by society. They're not accepted by society. Society has a disdain for guys that are like excess men or guys that have a certain way of thinking against the normies and the NPC's way of thinking. This whole world is all about conforming, conforming to the sheeple, conforming to the herd, And if you don't follow exactly what everybody else thinks, then you're kind of ostracized, aren't you? It's absolutely brutal that we live in a system like this where it seems you have to abandon your true self. You have to abandon your dreams. You have to abandon your hopes. You have to abandon your copes because life is not a joke. At the end of the day, man, if you're a full grown man and you don't have your money right, you don't have your mind right, you don't have your grind tight, and you don't have a woman in your life, it's just a brutal existence. And there's only so there's only so many times you can cope with, you know, video games and sexually explicit material and illicit drugs and substances. It's like that. It has an effect for a time, sure, but it wears off. What you truly need is an emotional healing. What you truly need is to be able to do what you truly want in life and be free. I feel like this whole world is a soul trap prison. Like it's designed to break you, break you down, just bit by bit. Like it's like imagine like back in the medieval days, like the days of King Canute or the days of the ancient knights. King Henry VIII, something like that, and like. You're a knight on the battlefield fighting like another knight. So you got the English versus the French. That's a classic one. And like you're fighting another knight. Your goal is to try to find a chip in the armor, and try to exploit that. Your goal is try to smash through the enemy armor, and it's just this life, the armor that you really need to succeed, a lot of us, we just never built that particular type of armor. We have to build armor. We have to build our armor on negative things, not positive things. A male that gets a pretty female in his life, and he continuously gets pretty females. He has like a different set of armor. It's like a different level, a different class than somebody who had to get armor from isolation, from rejection, and not being accepted. And having failed dreams and ambitions. Like it changes your mind when you don't get what you want in this life. It changes your freaking central, cortex. It changes your brain. When you don't, when you're not able to get the things you truly want in this world. And honestly, it makes you sour about life. Because when you see how like nothing's going to change about how people treat each other, how people treat lonely guys that are isolated, you know how they look at certain guys as if they're just despicable and just miserable, and then they treat them that way, and then they wonder why people have attitudes or people don't have any positivity in life. It's like people will try to provoke you and try to mess with you, and then wonder why you have an attitude with them. It's crazy. Like somebody will do something towards you and keep doing it, keep pressing your buttons, keep, attacking you. And then the moment you kind of defend yourself or whatever, then they try to paint you as the victim, paint you as the villain. It's shit like that turn people to real villains, to turn them to the real jokers. I think that's why, it's part of why I think what's that movie, whatever, was it the Joker movie or whatever? And I think they came like a part two of that movie, but it was like poorly received because it turned to like a musical. They took out the BP like context, and it made it more whimsical, made it more mass appealing for the normies to consume. They do stuff like that with movies like that. So I don't know, man. It's just once you reach a certain age, you kind of expect it to have, your life in order. You're kind of expected to have the money thing figured out, but the money thing is like the hardest thing to figure out, you know, and it's the most essential, you know. Even though it's an artificially created construct, it has real ramifications upon our life because people give it inherent value, which makes it valuable, right? It's like the only reason why we value gold and diamonds is because people make it, valuable. Even though I think it's the De Beers company, they hold like the whole like they have like a whole diamond reserve that they don't really give to people, and they release a certain amount of diamonds a year just to keep the price of diamonds high. It's just brutal. But like you can't eat a diamond, you can't eat gold. You know, inherently they're worthless, but because people give it, power and belief in it, then these things become valuable. It's just a matter of perception, you see. And the perception of this world that I feel like we're in is a hell realm. Like, you can't live your dreams, you can't have your ambitions, it's like you can't really be happy for some reason. And when you do have those moments of happiness, those moments of tranquility, those moments of peace, you know, they don't last very long. You know, it's like it lasts like less time, than you want it. Because in this world, man, there's always something that's trying to take your peace. There's always something trying to take a piece of your mind, take a piece of your soul, and then break it down and break it down and break it down, and then take what's broken down and break it down some more. You know, it's a reason why people have psychological collapses, and you have tragic things that happen. People they get tired of living a certain way. They get tired of being mistreated. They get tired of being not seen. They get tired of going through the same routines every single day to the point it becomes just repetitive. Then you start questioning, is this what life is really about? You know, just pretty much being subservient to evil forces and evil things and relying on systems that are not designed for my spiritual growth and progression, that's not designed for me to thrive, but put it into a system that's actively consuming both the consumer and the corporations at the same time, because nobody truly benefits with all of this corporate mumbo jumbo, because at the top of it, thing like this world is controlled by these evil interdimensional beings. I know it sounds ridiculous at first, but if you look at everything, you see a certain pattern that goes on. There's a pattern in your life. There's a pattern of pain. There's a stain of sustained pain in your life. You're gonna see it. Whether it's isolation, whether it's rejection from the girls that you want, whether it's not being happy in your position in life, there's going to be something that you see that's going to be a pattern of pain. It's going to be sometimes you have some okay days, right? But then you're reminded of your position and it breaks your confidence, and lack of confidence leads to lack of accomplishment, you know. And then you have some days where it's like you feel like you're just being targeted. And then you got certain people, that it's like a constant battle. It's a constant war, and eventually it becomes mentally fatiguing, and then that's when bad things happen. That's when you start to just like once you lose a will to live, like once you see life like it being meaningless or it doesn't have a purpose, that's when it becomes pretty dangerous because that's when you can just say F it because you have legitimate reason. And so many people that should be here right now, they got overwhelmed, and Septuku was like the only option they found, right? And yeah, that just shows you the failure of the world, the failure of the system itself. When you got people feeling so desperate that they think that just neutralizing themselves is the ultimate option, is the only option. That shows you how stressful the system is, and it's like that everywhere. You know, there's no place in the world that you can go and thrive without having money. It's all part of the system of control. And whoever controls the money, whoever controls the banks, cough, 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 cough. Over Chico, Chico, Chico. You got to speak in code because you know how YouTube is. You already know who owns YouTube and who owns everything. you know, but you know these people have infinite Chicos. That's all I gotta say. But it just makes no sense at times. When you really think about it. when you really look at life, I always had that just that ponderance of just thinking about what if there's like multiple dimensions and like different versions of yourself. Like there's like a version of yourself that's actually doing worse than what you are right now. And there's a version of yourself that's doing greater than you could ever imagine. It's like different worlds and different realities. There's like a version of yourself where you're married and you have kids and you're happy and you're wealthy and you're powerful and you're like a CEO of a corporation. You know, you get hundreds of millions a year. You know, like you're living like the top boss life. There's like a life like that, or maybe in another dimension, like some king or some emperor in like an anime fantasy setting or something like that. Just like different types of dimensions. I think about that sometimes. And to be honest, if I could go to another dimension and I'll be like a some type of emperor or some type of famous general or some type of, legendary hero, born into like some anime realm setting, I would definitely go there in a heartbeat. I'll just teleport in that dimension instantly because I feel like in that dimension, it feels like you have more power, you have more value, you have more, just set goals, defeat the demon lord and his four dark masters, something like that, and it seems more structured. Like if you master your sword, master your blade, if the goddess of light, when you're in the transformation stage, when you get sent to the world, if the goddess of light gives you a special OP ability, you're able to utilize and integrate that into combat, and you become legendary. I think like you know that's gonna make you feel even confident and powerful, right? Imagine yourself in another dimension. And you're like some anime hero or some type of superhero. You have all this type of power, and every time you do a good deed, you get rewarded and you become wealthy from that, from good deeds, or wealthy from just your power. Instead of being in a world where you could just work for 40, 50 years and you'll still be an employee and not an employer, and to make it difficult for you to own your own business, to make it difficult for you to thrive pretty much, you know? And then you got to worry about if you do finally break through, there's secret societies that may want you to join, and if you don't want to join them, they may try to sabotage your projects. So you got to worry about stuff like that. You know, you got to worry about other people, you know, hating on you and doing bad things and plotting against you. You got to worry about a lot of things when you're um, an excess man or somebody that's been sent their own way. Because the world's out to get you. The world's out to attack you, and don't let nobody tell you different. If anybody says, "Oh, the world's not out to attack you," they're lying and they don't know what they're talking about. The world is out to get you. If you're a lonely, isolated male, the world is against you. Don't listen to what anybody else has to say. You can just look at your own life experience and confirm what I'm saying. That's how you know it's real. When you can feel it and see it in your own life, and then somebody says exactly what you're feeling without even knowing you personally like that, but they're saying some real shit that you can relate to instantaneously. That's how you know it's real, and that's how you find out what's truth. It's truth you can see, truth you can identify with, truth you can feel, truth you can resonate with, right? But in this world of deceptions and social rejections, it doesn't like truth. The normies and the NPCs, they love to believe in the lies, they love to be tricked by the politicians and tricked by the government systems. They love that, you know. They don't want to believe in truthful things. They love the fighting, the arguments, the all that crap going on. It fuels them when like NPCs and normies, they get their fuel from just chaos, and they don't like tranquility. A lot of them, they like chaotic drama and chaotic things. Because have you ever seen like those football games or whatever, and people start fighting from two different sides? Like these people are not even on the team. They're not on a sports team, but they're out there fist fighting and getting arrested and fighting drunk and fighting in the parking lots, and just going wild over a team that doesn't even give a damn about them. They're not even on the team roster, and yet they're fighting so hard for a team. It's just normie NPC behavior. I like peace. I like tranquility. I like quiet. I like silence. That's what I like. I like being just left alone, minding my business. And I feel like you should be able to do that, right? You should be able to just be in peace. But like this world always has a way of breaking that, and and you can just see it, man. It's like a pattern. Once you take notice of it, you notice the pattern. It's like, okay, you can almost predict, okay, something good just happened. That means something bad may come right around the corner, and then bang, right on time. You're like, damn, just predicted it. you know, you can say, oh, that's manifestation and all that. Okay, but how come people can't manifestate millions of dollars? And people only manifestate. They always talk about manifesting bad shit. And then whenever they say they manifest good stuff, you look at it really, and they've had help. They had some type of loan. They had some type of partner that they knew. They gave them a discount. Like there's always somebody helping people become multimillionaires. People say they're a self-made millionaire, and you look at it closely. They either had help, they knew the right people, they were in the right environment. Because not everybody is in the right environment to be millionaires. You have to be in the right environment. You have to be cultured in the right mindset. Know the right people. Have the right milestones happening at the right time. It's almost like winning the lottery, bro, because everybody can start the same business, but then everybody's not going to have the same finish. And that's a brutal reality. That's the reality of it, man. Like, when you really look at it, this this world just seems like it's designed for war. It's designed for constant conflict. It's designed for people to be envious of each other. It's designed for people to want to take from each other with the scarcity of all the resources, the scarcity of food, the scarcity of energy, the scarcity of this. And this is all, artificial. If they want, they can have infinite abundance, man. They have the money, they have the power, you know, and of course they have the shekels to do it. It's like they have the power to do good, but all these world leaders choose to do evil and bad, and then they rope us around in it. So if there's a World War III that takes place, they're not going to be affected as much. They're going to be hidden on the ground or hidden on the moon, you know? And the regular people like us, we're going to be left to the buildings of destruction. We're going to be left to nuclear proliferation. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine waking up one morning and then you hear that they launched nukes from Russia and there's nukes coming and you got 3 hours to prepare for nuclear obliteration? Like, what would you do? Like, where would you go? Because they're not going to just fire one nuke. They're going to fire hundreds possibly. You know, thermonuclear nukes. They got different types of nukes on submarines, different classes and different warheads, different capabilities. There's like many types of nuclear variants, for total, liquidation. If that ever comes to be, man, it's going to be interesting. But imagine surviving the fallout on that, like how different the world's going to be. You know, can you imagine living through that, man? If it turns like some fallout situation, you know. But unfortunately for us, a lot of us, we're not considered quote unquote important, so we're not going to get a place in the vault. They're going to throw us outside the vault. If you're an ugly guy, they're going to be like, hell no. As brutal as that is, it's the truth. And they'll throw you outside the vault, But they'll use you though, like if it ever comes to conflict for defending the vault, they'll use you for that, and then they'll be like, hey, stand there real quick. If you're naive, you will, and they'll just close the lock. They'll just close the damn the vault door on you, brutal, without saying a word. Not even a goodbye. Like people would do that when you're a rejected guy. When you're an excess male, people have no sympathy or mercy for you, bro. Because it's seen as weird in society for a male not to be able to attract a female, and in a sense it is weird because in nature it comes natural, you know. Like you can see almost every animal in nature, it's just real simple. The biggest, strongest male is the one that gets to breed and mate to pass on his genes. But for the humans, it's not like that. It's like it's the it's what's it's what's visually appealing, no matter the muscle mass. It's like the muscle mass matters to a degree, right? But it's more so the face and the height, you know. And that's a brutal pill to swallow, knowing that a lot of your problems in life came from basically just having a face that just wasn't, liked by people. It's like, what? You sound crazy. It's like, no, I sound real. People are extremely judgmental. People judge you on what they see, you know. Despite, don't listen to them. And people say, oh, looks don't matter. Don't listen to those people. They're lying. They're not being truthful. They're not being honest. Looks are everything. And if you don't have the looks, your life is going to be, a pain in the ass. It's going to be a life of torment, a life of torture, a life of oblivion, a life of isolation and social degradation. It's not good to not have a woman in your life after a certain age. You know, and I don't mean just any woman. I'm talking about a woman that has your back, a woman that really loves you, a woman that cooks for you, a woman that cleans for you, a woman that that you want to have kids with. They'll take care of your babies, teach your kids how to read, help your kids with her or his homework. When they come home from school, cook them meals when they come home, cook dinner, cook breakfast. Like, do you think modern day females do all that? You know, Come on. It's going to get more worse in the future. Imagine 30 years from now, and I'll be surprised if this world is even not in oblivion from 30 years from now. So I think we're on the verge of possibly a world war eventually. That's definitely going to come, and it's going to get even more brutal.